clean it up in the post.
When I walk in, every ancestor move. Every cell in my body got an ancient groove. I ain't searching for truth, I embody the proof. You look at me, you see the lineage. Every obstacle shift when I rise in them.
Happy Monday, everyone, and welcome back to another round of my Patriot Report Live. I am the bridge connecting the next generation to federal contracting. I am Ratwan Hill. With me, I have the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Ambassador of Peace. And if you don't know who he is by now, you might want to ask Google Gemini, Mr. Walter Cotton III. Mr. Cotton, how you doing, man? How was the weekend?
The weekend was fantastic, and it was made even better when I saw that they bought a few thousand of our fraternity members home. They arrived in Norfolk, Virginia. And so that's an indication that our efforts are working. People are, I believe, hearing our cry.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Let's talk about it now. That's something big because that's the message we've been pushing, bringing the troops home. Was this something that Congress finally, reined in and did that, accomplish that, or was that something because of the talks in China? What was what spurred that outcome?
I don't know because there isn't any official word being delivered right now, and there's a lot of concern that the popular media is undermining the military strategies or the president's agenda. And so there's a lot of stuff that's being kept from the American people, like what the details are of the ceasefire and the like. But in this particular instance, I think that we have to take the posture that one's action speaks so loud, you don't have to listen to what they're saying. And in a conflict, you have two options. Especially when you're in the form of a ceasefire. You have the option to escalate or the option to de-escalate. When you take several thousand troops and remove them from the theater, that's not an escalation signal. And so my hope, my prayer is that the powers that be have been listening to our message, and the congressional leaders are at the ready to pull the stop lever in the event that some inappropriate shenanigans occur. My equal prayer is that the executive branch has saw the better of sacrificing American lives unnecessarily when there is a diplomatic path to the outcome that's being considered and sought. And so I'm going to take a victory lap on this one, Mr. Hill. I think that our efforts and the efforts of a cadre of other true patriots have made a difference, and that this administration has seen the errors of their way, and that our congressional representatives recognize that they have the power and they're standing at the ready to pounce in the event that one of these tweets, one of these threats become a reality.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Now, should Americans have a sigh of relief now? Like, is this a data point that's saying, okay, things are calming down. We can now refocus our prioritization on reshoring America and lessening the blow that we're going to take from like the shortages that are coming, that we're probably going to experience later down the timeline?
Well, what America needs to do right now, I wouldn't refer to as a sigh of relief, right? I would suggest that America needs to take a deep breath, right, and get ready for the outcome that is resulting from the awakening that we just received. And the awakening that we just received was a clear understanding that we're vulnerable. We're vulnerable because we don't make the things that we need to support the way of life that we've seduced ourselves into believing we could outsource the manufacturing for, right? We got a wake-up call in an understanding of the fact that we're a net importer of the kind of oil that we need to run our nation, right? As well as some of the other materials that we need to support the economy and the ecologies of the globe. And so I would say that, this event allowed us to take a deep breath and recognize that we have been given a window of opportunity, right? And that window of opportunity is a window through which we can correct the error that has caused America to be on a trajectory of less safe, right? A trajectory of stagflation, a trajectory of recession. We have the opportunity to arrest that action, that behavior, and put our economy and therefore our nation on a pathway and a trajectory of optimum safety.
Okay, when you say that we're America is less safe, what does that mean exactly? Like, when I walk outside, I'm not looking over my shoulder. But is that exactly what does that mean when you say we need to make America safe again?
Well, when one America suffers, all Americans are threatened, right? And we hear a lot of talk in the popular media about an upper K and a lower K, right? We hear a lot of talk in the popular media about the hollowing out of the middle class, but we don't understand what the ramifications of that is, right? And these are Americans that we're talking about that are experiencing an increase in their misery index, right? Experiencing an increase in their misery index in one of the richest nations in the world. And creating that kind of a divide amongst Americans creates animus, right? It creates resentment. And at the end of the day, when hunger and dissatisfaction are combined into a brew, negative things happen, right? Negative things happen within the country, right? And so the idea that we can't have, internal strife, right, that comes from an economic, a racial, or a social divide is something that we have to take a close look at. And normally economic triggers, right? When people don't have the ability to satisfy themselves with distractions, or they don't have the ability to balance the imbalances with money, those kinds of triggers cause internal strife that lead to things like revolution. Wasn't it that type of economic imbalance that led to the revolution that created the 13 colonies? Right. And so the thing that I'm looking at are the threats that we have coming to this nation externally, as well as the potential for homegrown threats, internal threats that rip apart the fabric of a nation like ours.
So essentially what you're saying is because things like prices being too high and people not even having the necessary money to be able to afford day-to-day life is going to cause different types of pains where, they may react out of the ordinary way because now they're balancing feeding their kids versus paying their bills. I saw a poll that they asked about the inflation versus how much money is versus their paychecks that they get, and people saying that inflation and their paychecks are not correlated. Inflation is outpacing how much they're getting paid. So that's a problem. If you got to work 3-4 jobs, there's only so much hours in a day where you can work, and for you to live day to day, now you just like working to live, which is no proper way to live a life.
Yeah, we have an economic equation that's out of balance. And that economic equation does not leave the utility that the human beings need after they've discharged their labor. And that economic imbalance is a result of some type of a parasite that we have in our system, right? Because there's enough resources, right? There's enough money, but somewhere, somehow, there's something being siphoned off that's not leaving us with enough, value at the end of the day. And we need to see what that system is. I mean, is it this fiat currency system that we've heard about, right? Is it the fact that we don't have real money? I don't know. I don't want to throw that out as an indictment, but the truth of the matter is we have a system that has created a very few haves and a whole bunch of have less and have nots. And that's a very volatile system that needs management. And right now we have conditions in our economy with the prices of food, the prices of gasoline, the prices of transportation, the prices of everything getting out of the reach for this population. And when baby need feed, 45 is going to hunt.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And that's a real statement when you look at the, lower cake of people once they're in survival mode. That's all they're just thinking about surviving. Now,
and I want to make sure that I'm not, recommending, some type of a socialist system, right? Where, we, go out and create a universal basic income and, help all of the people that have not. No, I'm not suggesting that, but I think that there is a opportunity for us to consider a reset, right? There is an opportunity for us to consider, resetting the system and allowing more people to participate in capitalism, right? Our founding fathers gave us the opportunity, the inalienable right to pursue property, right? And property is one of the foundational components to capitalism, right? Not just pursue jobs, right, but to pursue ownership and be able to contribute to our societies. And so I think that we may want to consider the possibility of some type of economic renaissance, an economic reset, where we take those people that are in our underserved, disenfranchised communities, and we give them a chance to bring their capabilities back into the storehouse, and we innovate, right? We lose our ability to be hypnotized, right, by the powers that be, and do the next dumb thing, right? Like the last dumb thing that we did was the real estate bubble, right? The low income, or what was it, subprime mortgage and derivatives. That was the last dumb thing that we did, right after the internet dumb thing that we did, right? And now we're in the process of doing a new dumb thing, right? This new dumb thing is this Ponzi scheme that we have going on that we call AI and these data centers, right? We're investing billions of dollars with no discernible value exchange. No discernible value exchange, right? Just it's AI, right? It's going to make your life better. Oh, be afraid it's going to take your job, right? I think that we need to maybe take a step back and ask ourselves the question, does it make sense to give this guy the ability to build a data center in Utah that requires more power to run the data center than the entire frickin' state of Utah, with no clear value for humanity? No clear value for humanity, right? I think that we need to, stop these people from having their, Iron Man arms race, right? These billionaires having this crazy Iron Man's arm race, and start looking at it from a human perspective, right? Start looking at it from, what's in the best interest for the human beings that occupy this planet. And I think we'll come up with a different set of priorities than
when you were saying that, right, and I'm glad you said that, because I was going to ask the question, like, so we're, when you focus on job creation, when we're focusing on job creation for America and revitalizing, like, what are essential jobs? Is this AI race that everybody's jumping into? Is it focusing on data centers because it's supporting AI? Is it building out drones? Is it barbershops? Like, what are the essentials that we should be focusing on in terms of making America safe again and being self-reliant within the United States?
Well, I don't think that there's a single answer to that question. I think that question is community based. I think that what is ideal for the community is a function of the natural resources and attributes that you have in that community, as well as the combination of the organic and human resources that you have in those communities. And so, what you should be doing if you're a rural agri environment, no, I don't think you should be building skyscrapers, right? I think that you might be looking at, how you can participate in the supply chain of the food supply chain need, right? And so each individual community is going to have to come together and identify, what its best contribution to our system of systems is. And right now, with this critical inflection point that we find ourselves in, this is an ideal time for communities to reinvent themselves and stop wasting money on things that don't truly matter.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Now, when it comes to federal contracts, right? And you spoke on, we should be focused on being a peaceful nation, right? America built their reputation off of the fact that they have bombs, the biggest army, the strongest army, I should say, weapons. But if we're a peaceful nation and we're not going to war peaceful.
See, can I correct that? Because
yes.
America didn't build its reputation on bombs and bullets, right? America built its reputation on being a nation of immigrants, right? A land of plenty, right? That could offer anyone who had the willingness to, put their shoulder to the grindstone an opportunity to self-determine for his or herself. And so America has long been reluctant to participate in battles and wars. As a matter of fact, we stayed out of World War I almost forever, right? And it took it took almost an act of God to get us in the World War II, because America has long appreciated its island nation position, right? We have a defense that our European and Asian counterparts don't have, right? We have oceans between us and, anyone that would consider themselves our natural enemy. And so we historically didn't have to, flex our muscle until we were attacked. But once we were attacked, right, America demonstrated its manufacturing might. It demonstrated its economic might. It demonstrated its utilitarian ability, right? Its ability to jump into the world and be a member of the global, right, brotherhood. So, we're not a bombs and bullets kind of nation. And I think that if you took the pulse of America and you look at some of the polls that you're seeing now, you'll see that America wants to get back to its kinder, gentler roots. America no longer wants to be the bully on the world stage. And more importantly than that, America doesn't want to be portrayed as the buffoon, right, that is being used and milked dry while its people suffer at home for the interest of a few.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Now, well, okay, so what I was going to say in regards to, that being more of a peaceful nation that doesn't, intentionally participate in conflicts, would you say that the refocus should be on more of the things, the tangible things that matter, like food and the logistics of it, maybe natural minerals. Should that be more of the should that be the focus for the federal government in regards to rebuilding our industrial base or the national security base, I should say?
Well, I think that the focus of the federal government starts with a refocusing of the people. And what I mean by that is, you know, again, we live in a constitutional republic, right, where we have a document that gives each individual citizen, right, sovereign rights and authorities that document delivers. And so, from that perspective or point of view, the people, right, need to recognize that we are the federal government,
Mm,
right?
mm,
We are the federal government because we have the liberal ability to change the policies, rules, strategies, and systems that the federal government is employing. What we have to do is we have to wake up and get back engaged in the process.
mm,
We somehow have been seduced into believing that our civic duty is discharged, during the midterm and the general election,
mhm,
right? And so we go in there and we pull the trigger for the person, our party. Well, that's not the way this system was designed to be employed, right? Americans were designed to actively participate in the political process. We're supposed to be, in the face of our politicians. And I don't mean that in a negative way, right?
mhm,
And letting them know what our interests are on a local, right, regional and national basis. And so I think that what's needed right now is that, the American people need to wake up and get more participative in the political process so that we can reshape a federal government that works for all of the people.
mhm, mhm, mhm. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Now, this 500 billion was proposed for the National Defense Authorization Act for fiscal year 27. Now, with things de-escalating, do you see that as the Congress going to push back to maybe lower that amount? Because that, to my understanding, that's like the highest amount that has ever been requested.
No,
Is
I,
that?
I don't think that I don't think Congress is gonna push back, right? I
Okay.
mean, because our Congress is coming from the two-party system, right?
Yeah.
And so whether you're on the right wing or the left wing, you're still on the same bird, right? So
Hmm.
I don't see Congress pushing back on an opportunity to see an additional 500 billion tax dollars go into the system, right? So I don't see that. The people that need to push back are you and me, right?
Hmm.
We, the people, need to push back on the idea that our Congress would green light a program to spend thousands, no, billions of dollars on weapon systems that have already proven antiquated. And
Hmm.
what I mean by that is, we're looking at situations where we've got $1 million, $1 billion aircraft that are being destroyed by $20,000 drones, right? And so there's this thing called asymmetric warfare thing going on right
Hmm.
now. That we've got this asymmetry in warfare, we need to rethink our approach to the battlefield. We need to rethink our approach to the investments that we make towards the battlefield before we go charging down the pathway of creating equipment that's just going to rust in someone's yard or someone's inventory because we can't bring it to the battlefield because they're afraid that it'll be attacked by a cheap drone. A perfect case
Hmm.
of this happened this past weekend. You all saw the president of Russia, Putin,
Hmm.
scale back the nation's enormous parade. They normally have a big parade with machinery and tanks and all of the weapon systems of the Russian Empire. Scale back. You know why? Because they were afraid that Ukraine was going to get in there with a drone and they were going to explode that parade. That's the indication that this asymmetrical approach to war fighting requires us to rethink the kind of investments that we're making towards war, right? And so that's where we, the people, need to get into the ears of our congressmen and our senators that are on the Armed Services Committee, right? That are on the Budget Committee. And we need to say to them, you know what? No, I don't think you need to. I don't think you need to. We don't need the next battleship, and I know I'm going to catch a lot of flack for this, especially from the defense industrial complex. But guess what, folks? It needs to be said. Somebody's got to say the quiet stuff out loud, right? We don't need to build a battleship that we need to park over 200 miles outside the theater because we're afraid a drone is going to come in and blow up the laundry room, right? You know, we need to rethink our approach to this whole investment in war and battles. And therefore, we need to rethink our need to pursue war. I think, and I said this before, and I get passionate about this because I'm the ambassador of peace, we may have arrived at a station where we don't need war anymore to solve our differences, where we can use diplomacy. We've gotten to the place where we can use something other than bombs and bullets to bring a country to its senses. And I think that we have an example that's playing out in the Middle East that's going to prove that to us, because Congress is going to have its hands full now that our president has gotten back from China and he has another card in his pocket to play in the war against Iran. Yet I digress.
Now, so you're suggesting, or you're saying that from your perspective, you think that maybe that $500 billion that's requested, and instead of it being appropriated towards building weapons, it should be pretty much appropriated towards something else like agriculture needs and manufacturing. Well, we have the Defense Production Act. However, you thinking that instead of that money going towards the bullets and weapons, that it should go towards something more productive for the United States. And then my other question would be, even if they are making weapons and bombs, isn't that still a positive if it's creating jobs?
No, right? You know, there's this karmic thing, you're right there, that, you know, cause and effect, right? So the kind of energy you send out comes back. So if you're creating jobs in the arms making workplace, you're creating jobs that are connected to life destruction, right? So that's not a good connection there. But you ask a question that I had a great answer for, and I lost it. Y'all forgive me. I'm a child of the 70s. I'm always going to claim that. But your question, remind me of your question again.
My question was, should they appropriate that fund towards something that's more beneficial to the United States, like agriculture or manufacturing or something? Like, should that money be reappropriated and directed towards something more positive?
Good. And what I think that the answer that I was going to give to that question is that if they took a portion of that money and invested it in a skunk works, right, a separate think tank that just imagined a new America, right? That imagined a different America, that gave us the opportunity for this better believable dream that I promote. And we take that information and we compare it up against the current investment trajectory, bullets and bombs and the like. I think that a vision may emerge that is more desirable than the vision that the military industrial complex is trying to sell us, right? Because I understand right now that some of the provisions in the $500 billion bill that's being requested are provisions that are designed to create purchase guarantee. So, for example, let's assume that they want to purchase or incentivize a manufacturer to produce some of these smart long-range missiles. One of the components in this bill, this $500 billion, is to guarantee that the United States government will buy all of the missiles that these facilities that aren't built right now will manufacture. Well, if we come to the realization that because of asymmetrical warfare, those missiles aren't worthwhile anymore, right? What are we going to do? Default on those contracts, or do we just have to give them the billions of dollars that were approved in this Defense Production Act, right? So it's those kinds of misdirections of resources we can correct just by pausing for a second and asking ourselves the question: can we do things differently?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And guys, on that note, I'm gonna end this live, but I do want to, continue this conversation tomorrow to give us, Mr. Cott could give us examples of what we're doing in Syracuse and in Florida, and some of the things, some ways that you guys could be thinking of how you can empower your community with the same powers and same things that we're looking, or what we are actively doing. And on that note, guys, I am Retwan Hill, and that is Mr. Walter Cotton III. Until next time.